I'm Brice.
And I'm Kate.
And you're listening to BK Wrestling.
What?
Damn it, we love professional wrestling.
Hello.
All right, now we can finally get started on this. We've been saying we're gonna record this for so long, but we just had so much going on, and I did a little project a little late last night, and we watched SmackDown a little late, so we're a little late in recording.
Well, actually, what happened was we didn't start watching SmackDown until like midnight, and I fell asleep, and then I had to rewatch it this morning and write all my notes.
Yeah, so it's been one of them crazy weeks. But hey, the project that I did though.
So yes, Brice meal planned this week for the very first time. And because I am an ADHD girly, I was like, if you're going to do this and explain it to me, I need a PowerPoint presentation with like pictures and stuff. And he honestly knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it's probably the best PowerPoint presentation I've ever done.
Yes, I was an alien and he was a spaceman cowboy, and it was great. But let's get into the podcast. Let's talk about some wrestling.
Yeah.
So to start this episode, our first ever weekly episode, I wanted to let whoever is listening, our audience, learn a little bit about us and how we both got into wrestling. So I'm going to let Brice start out because he's been a wrestling fan the longest out of the two of us. So Brice, what got you into wrestling?
Well, I've been a huge fan of wrestling for basically as long as I can remember. I will say my earliest memory that I have was in 1996. I was 5 years old.
I was maybe a year old, but probably just an infant.
Yeah, so I was still pretty young, and I don't really remember watching much wrestling before this particular date, but it's so ingrained in my mind. I know, my dad had showed me some stuff previously of some of the old guys, like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and stuff.
Woo! Sorry, I had to interject that.
But I remember being at my grandparents' house, and my dad was over there.
Meemaw and Pumpkin?
Yeah, I was over at Meemaw. Yeah, I call my grandparents Meemaw and Pumpkin. But I was over their house, and my dad was doing some work out in their yard, and my grandparents weren't home, so it was basically just me inside of the house, and while my dad was outside working. And I remember he came in from outside and he sat down in this easy chair, right? Like a recliner. And he set me on his lap and turned on King of the Ring 1996. Now, I don't know how we got this because we never bought the pay-per-views. It was the middle of the day, right?
Yeah.
So, but I remember watching the 1996 King of the Ring, and there was several decent matches on there. Mankind and The Undertaker had a match on there, which is pretty awesome. But the one that stuck out for me the most was, of course, the Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Jake the Snake Roberts, where the Austin 316 promo was born. That particular moment was when I fell in love with wrestling.
Wow.
And then from then on, I always asked my dad, my mom, everybody that I could to let me watch wrestling. Basically, I remember watching when I could because we didn't have cable, right? So I remember watching when I could, and it wasn't until SmackDown came out that I was able to watch weekly because they were on the local TV channels, at the time. But what I remember most of all from watching wrestling was we had a local video store. It wasn't a Blockbuster. It was a locally owned. It was called Movies 2. And Movies 2 had all of the pay-per-views for rent. You can rent the VHS for all the pay-per-views. We'd go and rent movies almost on a weekly basis. And not only did they have the pay-per-views for rent, but they also had home video of documentaries and key moments that have taken place and everything. And they had 2 Stone Cold Steve Austin ones, and I would rent them so much that eventually my brother, he ended up getting them for me. and I got to keep them. Now, I don't know how he got them, but I do know that whenever I would go to his house, like, because he has a different mom than me, so I would go to his house and hang out with him, and he would let me watch those Stone Cold videos. Eventually, he just gave them to me, you know? So the King of the Ring moment, that was my earliest memory. A year later is what, like, really got me into wrestling. Like what really, really made me say, this is something I want to keep watching. And it was the WrestleMania 13 match between Stone Cold and Bret Hart. And that was on one of those VHSs that my brother gave me. And I watched that so much. And I loved it so much. And so, yeah, so I watched wrestling a lot growing up. I remember when I was about, I want to say I was like 12, Stone Cold Steve Austin came to my Walmart.
Yes, this is one of my favorite stories.
Okay, so at the time, my town was a fairly small town, right? It's grown now, right?
I'd say it's still a pretty small town, but it has grown a lot since whenever you were meeting Stone Cold at the Walmart.
Yeah, there's this fairly small town with Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to be there. And not only that, it's so weird. This Walmart is weird because not only did we have Stone Cold Steve Austin go there and do a signing, but years before, we had Jeff Gordon go and do a signing.
It's just like a beautiful trifecta of American culture. Walmart, WWE, and NASCAR.
Yes. And so I wanted to go so bad whenever Stone Cold came to that Walmart because he was promoting his book and doing a signing. I wanted to go so bad, but I had school, right? I remember my sister waited for me to get off the bus, and I was like, if we don't get there early enough, we're not going to get a chance to see him because there's going to be a long line, right? I remember my sister picking me up at the bus stop. She drove me down to Walmart, and this was probably 3 hours before he started signing, and we got in line. And I still remember I was number 137 in line. So I still got there early enough, and I was surprised that the line wasn't as long. Although it was a great memory, and I got his autograph, I got a picture with him, the Walmart employees were so rude, and they were just rushing us through, and I didn't even have time to look at the camera before the Walmart associate snapped the picture. So I'm looking away in the photo and everything like that, and I don't know, but it was a great moment to meet Stone Cold. I was starstruck, so I didn't say much to him.
It's kind of giving the elves in A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Where they're like, move along. It is Christmas Story, right?
Yeah, where they're like,
move along, kid.
Where they kick them down the slide.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I envision.
Yeah, basically, that was amazing. I was maybe like 11 or 12 years old. The interesting thing is we had 2 TVs in my house, okay? One was in the living room, and one was in my mom and dad's room. And there, at times, were 6 kids, right, in the house. We always fought over the remote, and I was the only kid to really love wrestling. My siblings would actually pick on me about it, but that's okay, because you know what? It's still good. I don't care.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Yes, it is.
Oh, how old were you when you realized that wrestling was not quote-unquote real?
I was pretty old, because I would fight my brothers and sisters about them calling it fake, you know? Mm-hmm. I would get so defensive about it, and I would cry, you know, because I was the youngest, right? So I'd get so defensive about it, and they'd call it fake, and I'd be like, no, it's not. Anyway, I was probably, maybe like 13 or 14 when I finally realized it's scripted,
Scripted is the correct word for any fans that are still mad that I said real. But I put the quoties. Yeah,
so the one thing that I do remember was my mom always made sure that I got to watch wrestling.
Yeah.
Everything like that. Now, there was a period of time where I didn't watch. I had gone to stay with my grandparents when I was in high school, and they only had one TV in the living room, and my grandpa controlled the TV. Basically, it was Westerns all the time, or the local news. And so I didn't watch wrestling while I was there. And then my freshman year of college, I didn't watch wrestling either because I was in a program that didn't allow me to have a TV in my dorm room. And so I didn't watch it. It wasn't until 2010. So basically from 2005 to 2010, I didn't watch wrestling. When I started watching wrestling again, CM Punk was there, and at first I didn't like him, but then he grew on me, and now I'm like the biggest CM Punk fan, and I haven't missed a wrestling show since 2010.
Right on.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. What about you, Kate? What got you into it?
Well, funny that you ask. It is mostly this gentleman sitting right next to me. Before I met Brice, I had pretty much zero wrestling knowledge. I knew Hulk Hogan existed. I knew Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And I knew John Cena because of the memes.
Boop, boop, boop.
I had watched a wrestling documentary with an ex, but could not. Now I know it was about Stone Cold. I had forgotten who that was by the time I met Brice. So, very minimal exposure. But Brice, when we first met, one of the first things he said is that he was going to make me a wrestling fan, and by golly, here I am today.
As God is my witness, he's broken in half.
So, I think it was sort of a perfect storm for me to start watching wrestling, because right around the time that we met was the women's revolution. I was getting into some Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks and Bayley. So all of them had been on the scene by the time I started watching. And basically, Brice and I, when we first started dating, we were pretty broke. I was still in college. And so our dates would be watching wrestling together on Monday nights while we did laundry at a friend's house.
Yep.
So I was kind of casually watching with them. I would do my homework while we were watching. And then Brice introduced me to Total Divas, and I actually really enjoyed that. I really was into the Bellas. I feel like Nikki Bella, I relate to her a lot. So I really enjoyed the Bella twins. But I think the really major turning point for me, where I finally got it, where I got what wrestling is all about, is when Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks were going to have the first ever women's Hell in a Cell match. And that's when I was introduced to Mick Foley. And so I started asking, why is Mick Foley here? Tell me what's the backstory here. And so Brice was telling me about the second ever Hell in a Cell match with Mick Foley and The Undertaker. And he was telling me about it, and I was like, whoa, what? And so we watched the match together, and I was just taken away at what these men put their bodies through, falling through the cage down into the ring, and his tooth coming out of his nose, and just and all of that happening after, being thrown from the top onto the announce desk. And I think that for me, was the first time I ever got chills watching a wrestling match.
You know what's funny? I mentioned The Undertaker and Mick Foley earlier at the King of the Ring 96.
Mm-hmm.
That Hell in a Cell was at King of the Ring 98.
Ah.
So Mick Foley had just come into the company in 1996, and he was only 2 months into the company when he met The Undertaker at King of the Ring 96. And so I think it's kind of amazing how long their rivalry lasted.
Yeah. And I also think it's crazy how it has staying power. The fact that watching it for the first time in 2017, 2016 was just as gave all the same feelings as watching it for the first time back then. Obviously, not, I'm sure, people who were actually there, it's a whole different level, but I just mean, the way that it can transcend time to give those same reactions to new viewers. So that is what really got me into it. And then, of course, we watched the Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks match, and I am a total feminist, and I just love that, all of these powerful, beautiful women are just like complete badasses in the ring.
Yeah, that was a really important time too, because I mean, prior to that, the women were barely getting TV time. I mean, I grew up in a time where they're having, matches in a, pool filled with gravy, you know?
Yeah.
And, but I will say, out of the time period that I grew up watching the Attitude Era, Trish Stratus and Lita were like on fire. They were the best women's wrestlers, and they actually, like, I believe that they, with the help of China and all those other women, paved the way for what could have, happened, that, or what did happen later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I had started watching at any other time, I would have been really put off by it. But because I was coming in during this huge push within the women's division, I think it was just a perfect storm for me to become a fan. However, I think so that's when I became a fan, when I like finally understood like wrestling. I think what solidified me in becoming a super fan is going to WrestleMania in Dallas.
Yeah, we went to WrestleMania 38, and funny enough, as big of a wrestling fan as I was, I never went to a live event prior to that. My dad always promised me growing up, but there were things that happened that caused us not to be able to go. Going to WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, I was debating on it, and finally I was like, you know what? We're going both nights. I have to be able to see my favorite wrestler of all time.
Well, we were debating it, right? And then we found out that Stone Cold was going to be wrestling there, and we had to go. It was not an option.
Yeah. And because it was in Dallas, like it made perfect sense. It worked out perfectly.
One of my like core memories from that was walking in there on the first day and just seeing the stage, and I got like full body chills. And Brice cries over wrestling all the time. I'm not a crier, really, at all. But in that moment, I teared up, like, because it was just feeling the energy and, like, actually being there and seeing it for myself. It was just really powerful. And then, of course, like, just being in the crowd and feeling the energy. Y'all, if you've never been to a live event and you're, like, worried because you can't hear the commentary that it's, not going to be as entertaining, it is even more electrifying being in the crowd. I know that people use that word a lot, but electrifying is just the perfect word. That's exactly what it feels like to be there.
Yeah, I joke that it's probably the greatest moment of my life. I always joke with Kate about that. Of course, getting married was, right? But
especially because those two things happened within the same year.
But I always joke. But truthfully speaking, as far as like entertainment events go, whether it be a concert, or something else, whatever else is a live entertainment event, going to WrestleMania was the greatest event I've ever been to.
Yeah, I would say. And here's the thing: we are both Texas A&M Aggies through and through.
Whoop.
But I would say WrestleMania tops Aggie football.
Yeah, Aggie football is pretty special at Kyle
It's
Field.
pretty close. It's not a big gap, but WrestleMania definitely tops a football game.
You know what's crazy? Even though, I had the opportunity. There was opportunities to go to live events because WWE would go to Reed Arena at Texas A&M for house shows, and I never went.
I think you were meant to be at that WrestleMania for your first live event.
I think so too. All right, so we talked about our earliest memories and what got us into wrestling. So everyone knows now my favorite wrestler of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Of all time? I think maybe Becky Lynch, because she was the first, like, active wrestler that I got really excited about.
Okay. Now, Becky Lynch is currently not wrestling, and neither is Stone Cold. So, out of the people wrestling today, who's your favorite? Who do you look forward most to seeing?
Oh my gosh, there's too many. Can I say multiple?
Give me two. Give me a male superstar and a woman superstar.
Can I do a male, a woman, and a group?
Sure.
Okay. I think you can tell where this is going. So, female superstar, Rhea Ripley, hands down. I love Mommy. And and that is her nickname, by the way. I'm not just being weird if you're not a wrestling fan and you happen to be listening to this. Rhea Ripley, hands down. She is just so cool and badass and strong, and I love her. Favorite male wrestler? Maybe Seth Rollins. So
I knew you were going to say that.
I was between Seth and Braun Strowman, but I think I just have a crush on Braun Strowman. And Seth, I also have a crush on, but I'm also, like, really invested in him as a wrestler, where I feel like Braun doesn't have too much going on right now, other than being a big SOB. Seth Rollins, I love his flamboyant outfits. He's, like, so interesting to watch in the ring. He's great on the mic. I just feel better soon, my guy, because you are leaving a hole in my heart. And then favorite group. I think you know where this one's going. The Wyatt Sicks.
Of course.
I am obsessed.
There you are.
I think it goes without saying, I love all the kind of, like, dark and creepy things in general, and they are dark and creepy and cool, and I want to be all their friends. Can I join the Wyatt Sicks? Whatever. I can't wrestle, but I can, like, be there and maybe look cute or creepy or both. I'm just so obsessed with the storyline, and, like, I can't get enough of it. I'm just really excited to see what they do.
Well, that's great, because the Wyatt Sicks are currently my favorite group, but as far as, like, a male and a female superstar go, currently, Kevin Owens. You know, I don't know.
I'm surprised that you said him.
Well, I was going to say CM Punk, but he doesn't CM Punk, he hasn't wrestled on Raw or SmackDown yet. He's only wrestled at the Royal Rumble and SummerSlam. You know? Of course CM Punk's going to be my favorite, right? In my heart, CM Punk could do no wrong, right? I hope that doesn't age poorly.
Yes.
But Kevin Owens, he just brings me, or Gunter, you know, it's hard for me to pick. I just love Gunter's style, but I love Kevin Owens' ability on the mic, and I love his wrestling style. As far as a female superstar goes, right now, honestly, I do like Rhea Ripley, but I really like Liv Morgan's character development.
I love Liv, too.
I really, really like her character development. I also look forward to watching Jade Cargill, even though she's not the best in the ring, but...
I think she's good in the ring.
She's had a couple of botches here and there, but, like... I just want her and Bianca Belair to be, like, unstoppable, you know?
Oh my gosh, I just had this idea, so I'm going to throw it in here. Could you imagine they both win women's championships? Belair in red with the Raw championship, and Jade Cargill with all her blue lightning and the blue, like, they're destined for it.
Yeah. Except it's not called the Raw Championship anymore.
Raw Women's Championship?
Yeah, it's not called that anymore.
What is it called?
On Raw, it's the World Heavyweight Championship, and on SmackDown, it's the Undisputed WWE Championship.
For the women?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's the Women's World Championship and the Women's WWE Championship. Yeah, Women's WWE Championship.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So there's no Undisputed.
For the women's, I don't think it's called Undisputed. But for the men's, it is called Undisputed WWE Champion.
I don't know the actual names of the championships. I just know that there's a women's one on each brand, and
it's the tag team ones for me. The men's tag team ones, that I get confused because I'm like, okay, which one's the World Tag Team Championship and which one's the WWE Tag Team Championship?
I honestly had no clue they were called something different till this moment.
You know what's funny is why do they call... It's kind of weird that they call it the WWE World Championship or World Tag Team Championship.
Because it's World Wrestling Entertainment World Championship.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like the title of something on Amazon. How they like try to get as many like clickable words in there as possible. But okay, we've gone on for too long now. Let's jump into talking about some wrestling, talking about this week's shows.
Yeah, we got Raw and SmackDown to cover. We got a debut match for the Wyatt Sicks and a returning Roman Reigns. We got a lot to cover here.
Yeah, a lot happened this week.
So let's get into Raw on Monday night. Now, this was August 5th, 2024. Gunther does an opening promo. He is now the new World Heavyweight Champion. And of course, the crowd chants, "You deserve it," right?
Yeah.
Of course, he does. He's amazing. The one thing I found interesting out of that promo was Gunther's words of, "I am greatness personified, and Monday Night Raw belongs to me."
Yeah, those were some pretty great lines.
I had a kind of a shock here when Randy Orton came out.
Yeah, he was supposed to be on SmackDown.
Yeah, so he comes out and he takes it back to the King of the Ring. You know, his shoulders were technically not down when Gunther got the win at King of the Ring. And so he basically says, "I challenge you to a match in your home country of Germany." Gunther's from Austria, folks.
Yeah, they didn't even address that.
Yeah, they never addressed that. So, Bash in Berlin, it's going to be Randy Orton versus Gunther. An interesting thing that Randy says is fans deserve a modern-day Flair versus Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think it's an interesting comparison, but I also was a little bit like, neither of them are, like, flamboyant enough to be Flair.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the wrestling style.
Gotcha.
You know, and then Gunther says, "By the way, Randy, nothing catches me out of nowhere." Now, he wasn't on the microphone. We only picked it up through the camera's microphone. And you hear Randy say, "It's all good, man. I want you to see it coming." So fans want this match.
We want this.
I want this match. I think everyone wants this match. It's going to be a knockdown drag out, I think.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens there.
So next we get Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser.
Ludwig Kaiser.
We do a little interview with Sheamus backstage before the match. He mentioned he is going to take care of Pete Dunne after he takes care of Ludwig.
Can you remind me what's going on between him and Pete Dunne?
It has not been explained. Pete Dunne basically used to be part of the Brawling Brutes, and he started attacking Sheamus. It hasn't been explained why, so yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Gotcha.
Ludwig does attack Sheamus during his entrance. He ends up faking that he needs medical attention, but it's just a ruse. He ends up kicking Sheamus into the steel steps. An interesting thing I saw in this match was my favorite submission move, which is the Cloverleaf done by Sheamus.
Didn't Ludwig use Sheamus's move at some point?
I believe he did, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that being part of it too.
Yeah, he did the 10 beats of the Balrin. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the thing where he gets him on the ropes and beats his chest.
Yeah.
You know? Yes, Ludwig did do that. Pete Dunne also interfered, but Sheamus kicks him. And we get a bro kick to Ludwig with a Sheamus victory.
Yes, we love Sheamus.
Yeah.
I think the coolest part of that match was when Sheamus jumped the barrier into the crowd to celebrate. I thought that was a really cool thing.
Oh my God. Can you imagine being those fans?
Yes.
That would be so cool.
We are definitely fans of Sheamus.
And a fight. I can't do it.
What is it?
Fight.
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 Banger after banger after banger.
Yeah, so this match was a good match. I actually really enjoyed this match. You know, I'm interested to see what Ludwig does after the Sheamus feud. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to figure out what's going on with Pete Dunne. I don't really know a lot about him, but I like Sheamus, so I guess I don't like him. I don't know.
So next we get a Wyatt Sicks video. And this is an interesting video because the building that they were in was the same building that the original Wyatt family debuted in. And later on in the night, we're going to have the Wyatt Sicks in-ring debut. And an interesting thing to point out in this video is he is talking about life as a circle. Okay?
It's a circle. What is that from?
It's from I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry.
Oh.
It's like a circle. But anyway, I thought him talking about life as a circle, I thought that was interesting because their whole thing is red circles.
Yeah. So it also reminded me of like when we saw the image that was pointing to the inside of the circle that was like, he is here. And I feel like, personally, this just my thoughts around this particular video. I feel like he, in that moment, was Bray because he has passed on and is now part of the circle of life. And now, through his loss, they're creating new life with the Wyatt Sicks. And it's sort of like a nod to how Bray has moved on, but he lives on through the Wyatt Sicks, but also the fans.
Yeah. Well, that's not the last of that we're going to see in a Wyatt Sicks video, but let's move on to Damian Priest calling out Finn Balor.
Oh, I love this storyline that's going on here.
Yeah, so Damian's, is basically like, get out here, Finn. It's time to fight, right? Mm-hmm. And you took the title from all of us. I'm the reason for your pain going forward, right?
Yeah, it was good.
And then Finn Balor doesn't come out to the ring. Instead, he's on a video, right? And he's claiming that it was Priest that betrayed the Judgment Day. And because there was no leaders in the Judgment Day, and then he started taking it upon himself to do this and that, But he's refusing to fight Damian Priest.
Yeah, I think it's hard because, in a way, I feel like Finn is right here. But I also think if he had a problem with it, he should have addressed it differently. As far as, I think for the storyline, it makes sense. But,
yeah.
If you're reacting to it like it's a story, I think take the way that Finn is going about things while also realizing that there is some truth to what he's saying, even if we don't like the way that he's saying it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So, basically, we get Finn Balor refusing to fight Damian, and he says, but JD McDonough will fight you.
Did you couldn't decide if you wanted to say Dunna or Donut?
I know. So I said Dono.
Dono.
Did I say Dono?
You said Dono.
Okay. And that Finn Balor's going to wait basically until Damian Priest is comfortable.
Basically, he says that he's not going to fight him right away. He's going to wait till he's forgotten about all of this and he's comfortable to attack. Then we get a look at the new Judgment Day. Dom, Liv, Carlito, and McDonough join Finn on screen. And this scene is like a work of art. It is so cool. They're all backlit and purple and it's it's definitely bad guy feel, but it doesn't feel too corny or overdone.
So yeah, that was that little promo.
What do you think about it?
I'm excited to see where it goes. I do think you do keep them in a group just because they have so much talent on the roster, and if you broke them all up, there'd be people that wouldn't get any TV time and stuff like that. I'm really interested to see how Damian and Rhea go from here. Let them become the Terror Twins, get a Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley versus Dominic and Liv, or Finn and Liv.
I was also thinking, what if we get a Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and Jey Uso versus McDonough, Finn, and Liv?
Yeah, that would be good too. I'd be interested to see how they go from here. I really like the angle with the new Judgment Day. As far as I'm concerned, I think you can pick somebody besides Carlito to be in that group, but he does have some pretty funny moments.
Yeah, he's the comic relief of it all.
One thing I do want to mention, though, is I think JD might have more of a platform now that Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley aren't in the Judgment Day.
Yeah, because people don't like him.
I mean, people are still not going to like him because they're a heel group.
Yeah, but I think that he has more space to lean into that.
Yeah.
And I think because, like, some of, like, Liv and Finn are pretty loved, I think that having JD kind of, like, be the front is helping people love them a little less and emphasize the evil side.
Yeah. So real quick, we need to, move on. We get the Patastrator. I love the Patastrator. Do it every week. I love it. I love the fact that he pointed out the Michael Cole's Triple H spit water thing.
Yes, the Triple H Haktua, as they say.
Yeah, we get Bronson Reed getting in Adam Pearce's face, and then we get our next match, Lyra Valkyria versus Shayna Baszler. I will say the match was, to me, it wasn't anything special. I do think Shayna Baszler is really good. She's a really good fighter, but the power bomb that Lyra Valkyria did to Shayna did not look good.
Yeah, I think they really wanted us to fall in love with Lyra Valkyria, especially with Becky Lynch coming in and giving her that, like, seal of approval. But I just don't think the crowd is behind her. Like, I don't really care about her storyline. I'm not super into, like, her character or her wrestling style. And I think Shayna Baszler and Sonya and Zoe, like, I think they can out-wrestle her any day, so it's hard to kind of, like...
I think also she is smaller than the girl she was wrestling, like height-wise. And so she does the Nightwing as her finisher, and it just looks a little unnatural when she's lifting somebody that's like double her height.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing to note from this match, the commentators mentioned that Shayna Baszler likes to make soups.
Yeah, that's how they, like, started the matches, talking about Shayna's soups.
Yeah, so I like soup.
But you did not like them bringing the soup up. You were like, why are we talking about soup?
Yeah, why are we talking about soup? We should be talking about her wrestling and fighting pedigree.
It's good soup.
Well, if it's good soup, I want a cookbook.
Same.
Zoe Stark and Sonya Deville got disqualified.
Yes, they joined in the match cause it to DQ.
Damage Control comes out and attacks Shayna, Zoe, and Sonya. Man, they need to really come up with a name for their group.
I know. I think Zelina Vega tried to call them the, like, Five Heads.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, we definitely need a name there. I thought this was, like, super weird. I don't understand what Damage Control is supposed to be now. Like, are they face? Are they heel? I don't understand.
Yeah, they haven't really... The only thing they've done to turn face is attack a heel group. But the last time we saw them, they were heels. So it's very confusing. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like this particular booking is sort of like a standout in this show in a bad way. Like, it feels significantly weaker than every other storyline.
Yeah, it does. Well, we got the Karrion Kross video promo next. Speaking of weak storylines, I don't know what's going on with the Final Testament and Karrion Kross. I wish they would push him to the moon, but, like, I just can't get behind the Final Testament. And now that I have listened to him talk, and especially with the way he had his hair pulled back, next time you watch a Karrion Kross promo, tell me he does not sound and look like Vince Vaughn.
You're not wrong. I wonder if they're related. More importantly, what do you think is holding Karrion Kross back? Because I really want to like him and Scarlett.
I just don't think his creative is translating very well, you know? Apparently he was... Now, I don't really watch NXT, but apparently he was pretty big in NXT. And there always seems to be a disconnect with NXT superstars that get called up to the main roster, right? And for some reason, there's just been that disconnect. And he hasn't been able to pivot like LA Knight did, you know?
I feel like maybe, especially now that we have the Wyatt Sicks, Maybe he would do better on on SmackDown. I think maybe there's some folks that are over there that might be a better fight.
Yeah, because it's hard to have more than one in today's wrestling. It's hard to have more than one dark, mysterious wrestling group,
Yeah.
you know?
Especially when you have one that's been there longer, but the other one is so over.
Yeah. Then we're backstage. We have Creeds and Chad Gable and Ivy Niles there. They're talking to Ivy Nile. This is the first time we've seen her since the Creeds joined up with Gable. And then Maxine come and is basically, talking to Ivy, and Chad gives her and Otis and Tozawa the name to keep, American Alpha.
Yeah. And Maxine was kind of like, why are you talking to those guys? And Ivy's like, oh, no.
Yeah. So they're going to keep the name American Alpha later on.
Alpha Academy?
Yes, Alpha Academy. Did I say American Alpha?
You did. And I had American Alpha written in my notes, but I don't know why.
American Alpha was Chad's first tag team with Jason Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably why. A little confusion. Alpha Academy, folks. But next we get the CM Punk promo. He basically comes out and says he's back and his road to WrestleMania starts now. And then he calls out Drew McIntyre.
But then who shows up but my favorite? Seth Rollins. The crowd sings. However, Seth does not conduct them this time.
Yeah, he's looking very serious here, wearing his little cowboy outfit with the tassels.
Of course, I love the tassels, the cowboy. I love all that.
CM Punk even mentioned, basically before that, Seth, is basically saying how he got in his business and it's time to fight, right? CM Punk said, I'm not the one dressed like a cowboy, but I'll be your Huckleberry.
Remember this, because it's going to come up again later.
Yeah. Drew then interrupts, but Drew is in the crowd, and CM Punk and Seth Rollins refuse to look at Drew.
Because they're staring each other down. So, CM Punk and Seth Rollins refuse to break eye contact because they're, trying to stare each other down and make sure the other one doesn't try nothing. Finally, CM Punk is the one that breaks because Drew McIntyre mentions his little bracelet. CM Punk chases Drew McIntyre out of the ring.
Wait, was Drew in the ring or he...
Or not out of the ring, out of the arena.
Yes. Then, because CM Punk is running through the crowd now, we get Bronson Reed coming out to ambush Seth Rollins. And the interesting thing about this was Bronson Reed has been somebody that I have been like, what are they going to do with this guy? We've got 3 guys on Raw with Braun as their name, essentially. We got Braun Breaker, Braun Strowman, and Bronson Reed. Okay, what are we going to do with this guy? Because he's obviously a powerhouse, but I don't feel connected with him, right?
Yeah.
But he gave multiple tsunamis to Seth Rollins.
It was a tsunami of tsunamis.
Yes. And just when you think he's done and leaving the arena, he comes back and gives more and more and over to the point where Seth starts to bleed. Seth Rollins starts having blood come out of his mouth.
Yeah. I think in total it was 7 tsunamis. Pretty much back to back.
Yeah. Now, I think this was done as a way to write Seth off of TV, but it's funny enough that earlier CM Punk said, I'll be your Huckleberry, and then Seth Rollins was the one coughing up blood, because if you've ever watched the movie Tombstone, Doc Holliday said that line, but he was the one that was coughing up blood.
Mm-hmm. He got consumption.
Yeah.
TB, baby. My favorite line from Tombstone, by the way, is, are you just going to stand there and bleed?
Yes. Well, so Bronson Reed is now what we call over, right? He's full on heel, right?
The crowd's booing him and everything.
Yeah. The crowd is singing Seth Rollins music, and then we get an Adam Pearce update where CM Punk asks for Drew McIntyre. Adam Pearce basically said that he walked Drew out of the building and Seth Rollins went to the hospital. Next, we have the New Day versus AOP.
Is it AOP? What are they called?
Authors of Pain.
Okay.
But AOP...
You called them something different earlier.
Final Testament.
Final Testament.
Final Testament is the full group name. The tag team is Authors of Pain.
Got it.
Yeah, so like the full group with Karrion Kross and all them.
Gotcha.
Final Testament. The New Day, their ring gear is always amazing. They're wearing Ninja Turtles inspired ring gear, and it's because they have Ninja Turtles inspired action figures now.
Yes, very cool. Love the Ninja Turtle moment.
Yeah, there really wasn't anything special about this match.
Well, there was one special thing. Odyssey Jones debuted.
Yeah, Odyssey Jones shows up and attacks Karrion Kross. New Day ends up winning via a roll-up, and then the AOP attacks.
Yep. And then Odyssey Jones, which I have him in my notes as OJ, but I don't think I can call him that. So he attacks AOP, but there was a really cool move where he had both of them in like a double-sided cradle, and he slammed them down, and it was pretty cool. Because those are big guys, but Odyssey Jones is bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we have JD McDonagh up on the video screen, and he's basically talking that shiz.
He's talking shit.
He's saying, you know what, Damian, you never wanted me in the Judgment Day. Finn actually listens to him, and now look at him. He's a champion, and Priest isn't. So then we get Odyssey Jones and Kofi Kingston backstage, and then Xavier Woods comes in, and he seems a little off-put.
Yeah, so Kofi says that he recruited Odyssey Jones to help them. And part of this storyline with Karrion Kross has been, like, them trying to get into Xavier Woods' head that, like, Kofi doesn't think he's good enough to be on his own. And I'm sensing some hesitance from Xavier about Odyssey Jones. Like, maybe Kofi doesn't really believe in him, like Karrion Kross has said. Or maybe he's just starting to believe it. Maybe it wasn't, meant to be taken any kind of way from Kofi. But, Karrion Kross planted that seed, and so now Xavier Woods is not sure about this new guy.
Yeah, I think we might start seeing some cracks form in the New Day. Mm-hmm.
Especially with Big E, injured probably indefinitely.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to get to wrestle again, but Big E did, come out online and say that, he supports Odyssey Jones and all that. So I think maybe we might get a heel turn with Xavier Woods.
I would kind of like to see that. But before they can really get into it too much, the Alpha Academy randomly shows up and is just like dancing for no reason. Did that make sense to you?
Yeah, that was weird. I think there was a time like a couple weeks ago when Xavier Woods teamed with Otis in Tozawa, but I don't know. It was just strange. I don't have much to say about that. But then we get A-Town Down Under.
A-Town Down Under.
Versus the Awesome Truth.
Basically, to kind of condense what occurred in this match is Miz and Truth are seeming to be out of step with each other. For example, at one point, Truth spins to kick Austin Theory and ends up hitting the Miz. And then, of course, A-Town Down Under ends up winning. So I think mostly this was just kind of a hint at the Awesome Truth maybe not being as awesome in truth.
Yeah, they may end up breaking up,
Which is good, because then that opens up Miz for maybe a feud with John Cena.
And it opens up R-Truth to go team with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley to take on the Judgment Day.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? Oh, that would be great.
All right, so finally we get JD McDonagh versus Damian Priest. And JD comes to the ring with just Carlito. But the weird thing here is, I noticed in JD's entrance, he did the Triple H spit water thingy.
Yeah, who does he think he is?
Yeah, he can't be Hawk Tuin like Papa H.
So JD then rubs the title in Damian Priest's face, and Damian, of course, slaps it out of the way.
Yep.
And then, of course, the crowd is chanting, JD sucks.
So I will say, as far as the match goes, it was a good match, but I just, for me, there's got to be something really extraordinary to happen for me to want to bring it up. But I did notice something. The moonsault is overused. Like, there's moonsaults almost every match.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when a moonsault used to be special. Tiffany Stratton's finisher is a moonsault. So if everyone starts doing these moonsaults all the time, it's going to make other people's finishers look weak.
To be fair, though.
To be fair.
Tiffany Stratton's moonsault is the prettiest moonsault.
Yeah, but Io Sky also does a moonsault.
True. One thing that did stick out to me is Damian Priest takes a pretty hard hit on the corner of the announce table, which is notable because only 2 days prior, he went chop for chop to the chest with Gunther.
Yeah. So Finn Balor attacks Damian Priest from behind.
Shenanigans.
Oh my gosh. Carlito then joins, and then Dominic and Liv show up.
Yeah, in the chaos of it all, Damian Priest and Finn end up alone in the ring together, but then Liv saves Finn from Damian Priest.
And then we get your favorite, Mommy, Rhea Ripley.
Mommy to the rescue.
Yep. And she chases Liv and Dom.
But she ends up catching Liv, but then Dom saves her from Rhea, and Dom and Liv run off together. Following that, Rhea then goes to face the rest of the Judgment Day and gives JD McDonagh a slap. We love it. And then Rhea and Damian Priest basically kick everyone's ass, aka the Terror Twins, which I kind of love this name. I was really hoping that these two would get to work together after the Judgment Day break, and I'm really glad that they are still working together.
Yeah, I really love this segment. I know it ended in disqualification, but you got to keep it going. I just love this story.
Yep, some notable signs in the crowd from this match. Someone had a sign that says, Dom is a dirty little hamster, which I agree. And then someone said, Liv and Dom equal it couple, which I disagree. But I wonder if that maybe hints at a Maurice return. The original it couple, Maurice and Miz.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do want to say one thing about Rhea Ripley and chasing them out. Because can you imagine what it's going to be like when she finally gets her hands on Liv and Dominic?
Oh my gosh. They're going to be mutilated. They're going to be ripped to a pulp.
Yep. And then we get Braun Breaker. Backstage interview. He says this championship is born for me and that no one can take it from him.
I think it was really cool how he mentioned, it's only been 3 years from his debut in NXT until now, him being the Intercontinental Championship. I think that is pretty impressive, and I'm excited to see what he does with this belt. But after that, we get a match. But before the match can start, Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark show up and attack Damage Control. It ends up being them all on Dakota, who ends up getting injured. Io Sky then takes Dakota's place, which does not work out well for Sonya's group because she ends up winning. The only really notable thing here is there was a cool move with Io and Kairi where they were both standing on the same turnbuckle, and Io did a moonsault and Kairi did her insane elbow at the same time. That was kind of cool. But other than that, not really much of note.
I do want to say I did read reports that the reason that attack happened was to write Dakota off for a little bit in an injury angle. Now, I don't know what's going on with Dakota Kai. Since she came back as part of Damage Control, she has not had very many matches. Of course, she had the knee injury.
So maybe they're looking to replace Dakota Kai with Lyra Valkyria.
I really don't know. What I do know is Dakota seems very injury prone. And I do hope that if she is truly injured, then she, recovers from it well and all of that.
You know what I would like to see? Because I feel like Dakota Kai is kind of out of place amongst the Damage Control. I think pairing her with, like, Candice LeRae would be cool to see. I think she might get more traction that way. Because she hasn't wrestled very much. And she's not really a standout amongst that group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, after that, we get a promo with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. Sami's feeling a little bummed out about losing his championship, and Jey comes to cheer him up. Then we learn that next week, Sami Zayn is going to have a rematch for the title, and it'll be a 2 out of 3 falls match with Braun Breaker, which should be pretty good. And then Jey says, you know, we'll get Sami his title back, and then they're going to go after the Judgment Day for the tag champs so they can be double champs.
Yeah, so I'm interested to watch that 2 out of 3 falls match because I do think the SummerSlam match was a little underwhelming, and I'm hoping that that stipulation gives it the boost that it needs.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily underwhelming personally. I just think it wasn't long enough. And a 2 out of 3 falls match, I think we're going to get all the Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker we want. So it should be good. I think Jay's a little delusional here, but I do like the idea of him and Sami going against the Judgment Day.
Yeah. Next, we have a vignette for the Wyatt Sicks, this time focusing on Joe Gacy, Huskus the Pig Boy. And what did you take away from that?
So basically we see him singing in the corner, we've got the whole world in his hands. The main thing that a lot of people took was this line, open your heart to the man in the woods. Personally, I thought it was a callback to that video we saw of the figure across the lake at what people believe to be Joe Gacy's house.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of like coming out of the woods. But I think we read something somewhere that it's like a callback to a poem. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know the details of it. It is a callback to a poem, but also Bray would talk about the man in the woods a lot. But I do think it's interesting. It would be interesting to go look back at the QR codes to see if there's a line from the current vignettes that reference something from those QR codes. So like where he said, you know, reference the man in the woods, maybe that particular moment when we got that QR code is when Joe Gacy was brought into the Wyatt Sicks. You know, you hear Joe Gacy at the end say, let us in.
You're already in, buddy. I'm obsessed. So next up, we get Chad with the Creed brothers. They're giving a promo as they're walking into the ring, and Chad announces their new team name, American Made. What is that? What do you think about that, babe?
It's a lame name.
It makes me think of that, I think it's a Sheryl Crow song, soundtrack for Cars, where she goes, I'm American made, Bud Light Chevrolet.
And so the next match, American Made versus the Wyatt Sicks.
The moment we've all been waiting for.
And we finally hear the Wyatt Sicks entrance music. It's not just the piano anymore.
It's Bray's music.
It's Shatter. Right? Amazing. Chills all up and down my arms.
Chills up and down your spine.
This match was so awesome.
Yes. So we start, first of all, before they come out, it's just the rocking chair with the lantern on it. And then we get Shatter, and then they all walk out, and it's awesome. And then Uncle Howdy, actually, I don't know who was doing this, but basically they bring the rocking chair closer to the ring, and Uncle Howdy sits down in the rocking chair, which, like, I called it his throne, because that's basically what it is. And Abby, a.k.a. Nikki Cross, sits at his feet while the others go in the ring. The other cool thing to note is that Rowan takes off his mask and puts the face that's supposed to represent Luke Harper on the edge of the rocking chair, so Luke Harper gets to watch along with Uncle Howdy and, of course, Bray the Firefly in the lantern.
Yes. This match was amazing. I have been looking forward to this match, and it did not disappoint.
Yes, the crowd immediately is chanting, "This is awesome." When the match starts out, Mercy, aka Dexter Lumis, is the first to get into the ring with Chad Gable. And he kind of chases him around a little bit on his hands and knees, which was, like, it was kind of funny because Chad was freaked out, you know?
I just want to say that I think that the tag team out of this group, based on what I saw, is going to be Gacy and Loomis. They seem to have a move set together.
Yeah.
But we do get Joe Gacy doing a cool callback to Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, so he does some, like, flippy spinnies, and he ends up upside down on the ropes. And then that was the moment I fell in love with my new crush.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I have a new crush. I think all my crushes are on Raw. I'm definitely a Raw girly. But Joe Gacy is my new crush. My type is big, burly, hairy men or, like, greasy men that would disappoint my parents. And I feel like Joe Gacy is both. So he just really hits that Venn diagram well.
Okay.
So American Made gets out of the ring and is like kind of starting to try to run away, but of course they are blocked by Uncle Howdy on his throne, and then of course they get since they're outside of the ring, there's a cool like triple move with Rowan Gacy and Dexter Lumis, where they basically throw Dexter Lumis at the Alpha Academy.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Gacy ends up in the ring, right? He's in the ring, and he gets flung towards the ropes and does this cool flippy spinny where he basically does a handspring, right? Cartwheel type thing. And he flips, bounces his legs off the rope, flips back and clotheslines the two guys from American Made.
Yes. So cool.
Rowan tags in, and this guy is an absolute bulldozer. Amazing. He does a baseball slide drop kick under the bottom rope outside of the ring. Now, this dude is a big guy, and I was not expecting to see this from him, but it was amazing and refreshing to see that move.
Yes. You know, if Loomis and Gacy are our tag team in this group, I kind of hope we see a singles push for Rowan. I feel like he deserves it, not only because of everything he went through, but he's really talented. I mean, just an absolute powerhouse. I think he deserves a singles push and maybe a singles championship.
Yeah, I could see him as an Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, that would be good. The other cool thing that Rowan does is as he's getting into the ring, at one point, he does his homage to Luke Harper with like the fingers and the thing.
And he says, yeah. Then Luke Harper used to do that a lot.
Yeah. Loomis is just our high flyer. He's flying all over the place. At one point, Chad Gable pins Rowan, but he's able to kick out, and the crowd goes crazy and starts chanting, "You suck!" at Chad Gable. So they're definitely feeling it as well. And then another cool point in the match is, I put it as Mercy and Huskus. They do a double
Uranagi.
A double Uranagi on the announce table to the Creed Bros. That was pretty cool. And then they both go after Chad, which leads to Dexter Lumis pinning Chad for the win.
Yes. Wyatt Sicks wins their debut match, and we see right after the match ended, they showed Uncle Howdy in the rocking chair. And he, I don't know, like it was very brief, but he looked down at the lantern, and the look on his face, like just the joy it brought him, and knowing that he's honoring his brother's legacy, like, I don't know, I got goosebumps. I might have cried a little bit.
You did cry. I wrote, Uncle Howdy laughs, Brice cries.
Yes, I did cry. They all are in the ring and do that cool Wyatt Sicks pose, and the lights above the ring that are in a circle illuminate in a red circle.
Oh, I didn't even, connect that. I thought it was just, a red light.
No.
Yeah.
Just a red circle, yeah.
And I, of course, love this. I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm screaming, I'm foaming at the mouth, I'm in love. It was just beautiful. It was a work of art. And that is how we concluded Raw. Is it time to layeth the smacketh down?
If you smell...
If you smell...
Yes, let's get into SmackDown on August 9th, 2024. We open with Cody Rhodes' promo, and he wants to talk about who to face at Bash in Berlin, but Solo Sikoa interrupts, and he says if it wasn't for Roman, he'd be the champ, and he demands a rematch. But Cody basically is like, "You're delusional, bro."
Yeah, that promo from Cody in response was really good. I mean, he's always good, but it was just, notably good.
Yeah. And Cody's outnumbered here because the Tongans are with Solo. Jacob Fatu is not here on SmackDown tonight because he's injured. But Kevin Owens comes out with a couple of steel chairs to help Cody Rhodes' backup. There's no altercation, and Solo basically says once he deals with Roman, he's coming back for Cody. And they go backstage. Cody's music hits, but he says, "Wait, Kevin, there's something I want to talk about." And he basically says, "I want to face you at Bash in Berlin." Kevin Owens says, "I don't really deserve it."
The crowd definitely disagrees. They start chanting, "You deserve it." We agree. Cody agrees. KO, I felt like it was a little out of left field, but I think it's a match I want to see. And I also personally feel like, not right this moment, but long term, this may lead to some additional feud with Randy Orton, because in this moment Cody chooses KO. Even though Randy did just challenge Gunther, but maybe he didn't know Cody Rhodes was gonna, get someone from the group that's defended him. So I don't think they're going to do anything with that now, but I could see long term having like a jealousy feud with KO, Cody, and Randy. Randy ends up with the Undisputed Championship, and then we get a Randy versus Cena Undisputed Championship match. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll have to see how John Cena's retirement tour goes. I do think it's interesting that he would choose Kevin Owens because they're both faces right now. And it's really hard to do a match that people that people really get into when there's not a face versus a heel. So I'd be interested to see if Kevin Owens maybe turns heel. I don't think Cody will, but he might if Roman's going to be a babyface.
Yeah. So that's kind of why I almost wonder if instead of either of them turning heel, we get a Randy turn. Because I don't think Randy's going to win against Gunther. I think they're going to want to have Gunther have the title for a long time. So maybe after that, Randy gets mad and interferes in the match with Kevin and Cody.
Right. Now, there was a good crowd sign here that said Jey Uso deserves a singles title. It was right there in the front row for everyone to see. And yes, he does deserve a singles title.
Absolutely. I think, I'm just waiting for that singles push. Ever since he's, split up with his brother, he's still been in groups. And I think people really, really, really want a singles push from him. Yeah. It was honestly a shame that he wasn't at SummerSlam altogether.
Next, we get the Street Profits versus A-Town Down Under. It's a tag team championship #1 contenders qualifying match. There's a couple interesting thing to note here. They did the ringside camera angles that they used at SummerSlam during the Logan Paul versus LA Knight match. There was a super blockbuster from the Street Profits to Austin Theory. And one thing I just want to say is Montez Ford is so athletic and he always impresses. But Angelo Dawkins really impressed me with his athleticism in this match.
That's so funny that you say that. So because we watched separately because I fell asleep during this match, or during SmackDown, I did my notes separately from Brice. And I put that too. I was really impressed with Dawkins in this match. I think his promo delivery was much better, and I think, he really came and showed out. I really hope we get a good push from the Street Profits.
And the other thing I do want to say is B-Fab. I don't even know, I understand why she joined the group when Bobby Lashley was there, but Bobby Lashley's not with the company anymore. And I don't know. Does she even wrestle?
Yeah, I also put that down. I literally put, why is B-Fab? The Street Profits don't need her. We don't need her. The only person that seems to think that she's needed is Corey Graves, because he was like, oh, there's so much more no,
Yeah.
they don't need her.
The Street Profits win the match. And then we go backstage. Cody and Kevin are talking to Nick Aldis about the title match at Bash in Berlin. But Nick Aldis says he's going to discuss with Roman about a title match. And that's when Kevin Owens just goes off.
Yes, I loved his, like, response to that. But basically he, like, reverse psychology's KO. Which I really loved that turn of events.
Yeah, and I think it's also awesome here is because he was like, Roman doesn't deserve a match. So what if he held the title for 4 years? You know, he always had help keeping the title. He mentioned that when Kevin Owens lost the Universal title, he never got his rematch. So the rematch clause hasn't really been put into effect multiple times over the course of several years. And he says, if you want somebody that deserves a title match more than Roman Reigns, go to the locker room, open up the door, and look around.
Yeah, that was, chills.
He just put over the entire locker room.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, Aldis says, I don't need to go to the locker room. I see someone who deserves it right here. The match is made. It's official. Kevin Owens versus Cody in Germany at Bash in Berlin.
Yep. Hey, do you know what time it is?
It's Tiffy time! So she's planning the championship celebration for Nia Jax, and Pretty Deadly interrupts her.
I love Pretty Deadly. Brice hates Pretty Deadly.
It's not that I hate them. I think they're very talented. I just don't relate to their gimmick at all.
I think it's hysterical.
I hate their entrance music. I hate their wrestling gear. I hate the disco ball that goes over the ring. I just don't like it. Now, I'm all about goofy wrestling. I love goofy wrestling. But if you're going to be goofy wrestling, you really need to lean into it, like Tyler Breeze and Fandango did back in the day.
I think they're doing a great job. I don't know how to explain their character, but it's a very specific kind of dude. And I can't quite put my finger on it other than, like, it's giving Eurovision vibes. and I love it. I think, they have a little bit of a back and forth between, or back and forth conversation with Tiffy Time. They basically call her, like, Sabrina Carpenter, which, Brice, you have no idea who that is, probably.
Nope.
That is a very big compliment in the world of people who know Sabrina Carpenter. And it was a good comparison. My favorite part is she, like, tells them off and walks away. And then they're, like, spinning in the background and they're like, why is it always pain? You're laughing. I loved that part.
And then Chelsea Green and Piper Niven come in, and Chelsea Green says, it's tacky time. That was hilarious. I love Chelsea Green. I think she needs a push. But she also mentions that she sees right through Tiffany's facade and that she knows she's going to cash in on Nia Jax and this and that.
I was not feeling Chelsea Green for a while, but I think she's really grown as far as, like, promos go. And she's just, if you listen closely, she's really clever.
Yeah. Well, that's the last we'd see of Tiffany Stratton tonight. I don't remember, but I think they mentioned that the championship celebration is going to be next week.
What do you think about this whole feud? What do you think are Tiffy Time's intentions?
I think she's going to end up turning on Nia Jax.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it'll come in the form of I don't know, because I do think they make a good team.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be interesting to see if maybe Nia Jax is having a match and Tiffany Stratton cashes in during the match and makes it a triple threat and pins the person that Nia's facing for the title instead of Nia.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking to myself, because Nia sort of has a history of being a little maniacal. Oh, they need to do something with that. That's great. I'll be looking for my royalty check, WWE. Maybe Tiffy Time is plotting something. Maybe she's not. But I think Nia is definitely plotting something. I do not. I think if Tiffy Time does turn or does try to cash in on her, I think Nia is going to be ready with something else up her sleeve.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can almost see, like, somehow Nia has planned something that's going to prevent Tiffy Time from getting the title. And then she'll be the first woman Money in the Bank winner to lose their cash in. That has not happened to the women yet. I do think that would lead to a feud that would eventually have us putting the title on Tiffany Stratton, but just some thoughts that I have.
So next we have Jade Cargill versus Alba Fire. Isla Dawn tries to get involved, but Bianca stops her. Jade ends up winning the match. There wasn't really anything special about the match. After the match, Blair Davenport does attack Jade and Bianca, allowing Alba Fire and Isla Dawn to make it a 3-on-2. And then Naomi comes out and evens the odds.
Yes. Also, she has an amazing fro. She is in all lime green, and I just love her. And I love this trio. Like, I think there's some criticism to be had about, like, pairing the three biggest black women performers all together, but it feels like a celebration of that rather than, like, typecasting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And especially because they're so over with the crowd, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I love it. It's like Destiny's Child, but wrestling.
All right. So then we get the LA Knight promo in the ring. And the commentators said he had new entrance music, but I couldn't really tell.
I couldn't either.
The crowd is chanting, "You deserve it." He does. He's been working years to get to this level, and finally they put a singles title on him. I just have one thing to say about the promo itself, and it was an excellent promo. It reminds me of how they did promos in the Attitude Era. And then, of course, Legado del Fantasma and Santos Escobar come and interrupt LA Knight, saying that LA Knight's glory is going to be an opening act to Escobar's title reign. LA says, well, you need to qualify for that title match first, but he'll never take the title from him, not because he isn't good enough, but because LA Knight won't let him.
Yeah, I put LA Knight reads Santos for filth.
Yes. We go to break, we come back, we get a Giovanni Vinci vignette.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not much to say here. He was speaking in Italian, but I'm interested to see what Giovanni does on his own.
Giovanni Vinci.
So we get the number one contender match to the U.S. Championship, Andrade versus Santos Escobar. And Legado del Fantasma is cheating on the outside of the ring when the ref's back is turned. But Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews, that tag team is really growing on me.
I like it. I want to see more of it.
Yeah. They come and take out Angel and Humberto. A really cool thing in this match was Andrade powerbombs Escobar off the middle rope. And then Escobar does a poison Rana from the top rope. And the crowd chants, "You still suck." After they're chanting to Escobar, "You still suck," after he does this amazing poison Rana. Carmelo Hayes ends up getting involved, and he pulls Escobar out of the way of Andrade. Escobar gets a roll-up win on Andrade. Now, what I would like to say is I love this match because we get two Latino wrestlers that are really good being showcased in a match that was off the charts good.
It's interesting that you say that. I actually, personally, wasn't that interested in this match because I felt like the stakes were low. Because I feel like neither of these guys are strong enough right now to knock LA Knight off. Like, even though it's a qualifier, I felt like I just wasn't that invested because I felt like neither of them were going to win against LA Knight anyway. I actually wasn't that impressed with Santos Escobar, but I will say I know a lot less about the wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more in it for the storyline, so that might be part of it. What I did come out of this, though, was I want more Andrade. And I was almost a little bummed that he lost. But I actually think it's going to be better for him because he's starting that feud with Carmelo. So having a squash match with LA Knight is probably not going to get him as much screen time as having this feud with Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that with that, we'll end up getting more Andrade anyway.
I think the stakes were really high in this match because this was the first match that Andrade's lost since he's been back in WWE.
Yeah.
And it was all because Carmelo Hayes. But the reason I say that I really enjoyed this match, look, WWE has a history of promoting a certain type of wrestler. And it's not too often that you see Latino wrestlers being showcased, right? And I think it is great to see, and I want to see more of it.
That I do agree. I mean, like, I feel like they've done a lot with, like, Damian Priest in that regard, but, and, you know, Dominic, but I do agree that I want to see more. I think it's cool, not just Latino wrestlers, but, like, getting to see more of different kinds of wrestling is really cool to me because it's the world wrestling entertainment. I want it to be reflective of the world and not just one type of wrestler.
Exactly. Next, we get a little video package for Kevin Sullivan. He had a pretty amazing career. He did pass away. It was a beautiful video package to honor him. And I just want to say condolences to his loved ones. And I think we're still going to see his legacy continue to play out in some of the characters that we have now.
Especially Dexter Lumis.
Yeah.
Having just done that, like, callback to him with the face paint.
So we cut back to stage, and A-Town Down Under is basically complaining to Nick Aldis, about losing. And then Austin Theory is asking for a match. Or he's basically saying anybody that asks for a match around here seems to get one. So how about next week, Kevin Owens versus Grayson Waller? And Nick Aldis goes, done. And so it's interesting because Grayson Waller has been kind of throwing Austin Theory under the bus. And Austin Theory's been taking the brunt of it. And now Austin Theory's dishing it right back to him.
Yes, I said loving the frenemyship between Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. I can't wait to see Grayson get his shit rocked by Kevin Owens.
Me too. And honestly, I don't like Grayson Waller as a gimmick. Like, I don't like his gimmick. But I do like Austin Theory. I think there's something there, And I want to see a singles push from him. Now, he did have a singles push a couple years ago. But I think him as a babyface would be really great.
Yeah, I think out of, like, the tag groups in the men's division right now, I think they're definitely one of the better ones, in my opinion. But I'm really invested in them breaking up. So I can't wait to see the fallout of that, because I think it's going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And so next we get DIY versus Pretty Deadly. DIY does the promo as they're walking to the ring. And I absolutely love these. Like, keep doing more of these. I want to see it. I want that to be their special thing. I want DIY to do a promo on the way to the ring every week.
Yes. I love that they're kind of, like, mixing up how the beginning of matches go. Because they did that for a couple people. I like that they're mixing it up. And even with, like, the camera angles and stuff. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, there was really nothing special about this match. I personally wasn't very impressed with it. It was pretty decent. DIY wins the match.
I actually have some things to say.
Sure.
I was kind of pissed about this match, and here's why. I love Pretty Deadly for what they are, but I think this match was beneath DIY. First of all, kind of hearkening back to what Kevin Owens said, why don't they get an automatic rematch for their titles?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think if you're gonna do this match, it should have been a squash match. I think it went on too long. I'd like to see Pretty Deadly against an opponent who can kind of, like, match their energy. And I feel like DIY, like, it was just beneath them to have paired them up in this match.
Yeah. And, I think the tag team division really lacks, but I do want to see DIY as a team for a very long time. I want them to have a rivalry with the Street Profits, kind of on the same level of the Usos and New Day rivalry.
Maybe it would be good to see DIY versus like Karrion Kross and his crew.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
And then maybe like that would kind of put Karrion Kross in a better position. And then I want to see Pretty Deadly face Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews. Because I think that they could kind of match their energy on the goofiness side. And I think I would love to see like Baron Corbin get pissed off about like Pretty Deadly the musical. I think that would be some good banter.
Definitely.
And I did say DIY and Street Profits for the championship should be a good match. But I do imagine some A-Town Down Under fuckery will happen.
So let's get into our final segment. Solo Sikoa comes to the ring, and the crowd is just chanting, "We want Roman." But Solo calls out Roman, and then his music hits, and there's a huge pop. The whole crowd has their wands to the sky, acknowledging the real tribal chief. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa go after Roman Reigns, but it doesn't faze Roman. He takes them out quick, ends up hitting them both with the steel steps.
Yeah, he squashes them like bugs.
Yeah, the crowd's chanting, "Holy shit." And then, of course, because it's on Fox, they cut to black. And then when we come back, the crowd's chanting OTC.
They're down with OTC. Yeah, you know me.
And then we get a Roman and Solo standoff in the ring. And then Roman proceeds to just absolutely kick Solo's ass.
Mm-hmm. Solo ends up slipping out with the help of...
Tonga Loa saves him from a spear. The Ulafala is in the ring, right? And Roman sees it. He goes and picks it up. But then the Tongans attack Reigns. But you see Solo on the outside giving orders to Tama Tonga to get the Ulafala. So Tama Tonga grabs it. And he is kind of holding it in his hands and staring at it. And he's slowly giving it to Solo.
It's like it's the Eye of Sauron. That's Lord of the Rings, by the way. I know you don't know Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I don't know that. But maybe, I don't know if it's just because the Ulafala means so much to hold, you know? It's like holding like the Holy Grail or something. Or is it maybe giving us a little seed planted that Tama Tonga would be the first one to turn on Solo?
Maybe there's something in those peppers that makes you delusional.
Maybe. Well, Roman Reigns gets up, ends up Superman punching both the Tongans, gives a spear to Tonga Loa, and then a spear to Tama Tonga through the barricade. And then Roman Reigns grabs a chair and then goes back into the ring and gives repeated chair shots to Tonga Loa, while Solo is on the entrance ramp shouting, "I'm the chief now." We get the OTC chants again, but this promo and this altercation was amazing.
Yeah.
There was no Jimmy Uso. There was no Paul Heyman. Where's Paul Heyman?
Apparently he was at SummerSlam. Why did we not have him out there? I miss Paul Heyman.
We need Paul Heyman. I don't know if they're going to bring Paul back to pair with Roman, but I hope they do. I really do.
I'm not ready for him to retire.
Me either. But anyway, so that was an amazing promo. And so there you have it. That was Raw and SmackDown recap for you.
And a little bit about us.
I hope you enjoyed our thoughts and where we think things should go.
And if you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe and follow on wherever you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Twitter or Instagram to see some side commentary or just to keep up to date with the goings-on of BK Wrestling. I don't know how to end it.
Bye.
Bye.